Stranger Things 5 finally gave us some long-awaited answers, but Will's just as mysterious as ever. From his eerie bond with Vecna to that explosive new power surge, here's what his abilities really mean. So, young Mr. Byers isn't just the quiet background kid anymore. In Season 5, he becomes the most important piece on the demonic chessboard, and the story finally reveals that Will is not just a victim of the Upside Down, but that he is Vecna's mirror, his mistake, and possibly his greatest threat. The show has been building this in the background ever since Season 1, but these episodes from Season 5 is the first time it lays everything out and lets Will step fully into that role. To understand Will's new powers, the story actually takes us back to the very beginning, the night where it all began. Season 5 opens by filling in the missing hours right after Vecna grabbed Will in Season 1. We see Will in the Upside Down, hiding in Castle Byers, clutching his rifle, singing "Should I Stay or Should I Go?", trying to use his safety song the same way Max later uses music as a lifeline to stay in one piece. The Demogorgon attacks, drags him to the library, and there is where Vecna makes his real move. Will gets shot by the Mind Flayer tendril, the same kind of black goo that later turns people into puppets, and this is what creates the deep biological link between them. It's not just torture or a kill. It's Vecna testing how far he can invade a human mind, turning Will into the first prototype. The inner workings of Will's bond are pretty technical, but Vecna basically marks Will on a biological level. The connection is not only deeply physical, but also psychic at the same time. Will becomes a kind of living Horcrux, a vessel that holds part of Vecna's power and awareness, without anyone fully understanding it at the time, or Will himself even being able to tap into that power. That's why in Season 2, Will's eyes flare like Vecna's, why he feels cold, why the Mind Flayer can use his body as a doorway. Season 5 simply confirms that this link was never cut out of him completely. When they thought they burned it out of him, they were only quieting it down, not removing it for good. We then jump forward to the present day, and the symptoms of that old connection start to change. At first, it looks like what fans already know from the earlier seasons. Will feels the temperature drop. His neck starts to hurt. He senses that something's coming long before anyone else. But Volume 1 takes it further when Will realizes he is not just feeling Vecna's presence, but also seeing what Vecna sees. He looks through the eyes of the people Vecna is targeting, like Holly Wheeler or Derek Turnbow, and even through the eyes of a Demogorgon. He is literally riding along inside the hive mind. That makes him the man on the inside, a kind of spy who can watch Vecna's moves from the enemy side of the board, the Dungeons & Dragons. Connections explain this even more clearly. In the game's lore, the Eye of Vecna is a powerful artifact that lets someone tap into Vecna's powers and knowledge. Season 5 treats Will as a living, breathing Eye of Vecna. He's still connected to the hive mind, even though Vecna thinks he let go of him years ago. When Will describes his visions, he says the connection was never truly severed. They only believed it was. That explains why he doubles over in pain when Demogorgons are burned by the military's flamethrowers. The hive mind hurts, and Will hurts right along with it. He's plugged into the same network, and Season 5 finally stops treating that as just a curse and starts treating it as a tool. This is where we figure out who Will really is and how misled we've been for the past decade. For 4 seasons, Will has been the kid things just happen to. He disappears. He gets possessed. He draws maps. He warns the others, then steps back so that the super-powered characters can do the big moves. He's just a passive victim. Now, Season 5 finally flips that around. Characters like Robin look at Will and refuse to treat him as fragile or weak. She's one of the first people to push him to stop living only to keep Joyce calm, and to be honest about who he is and what he feels. The emotional side of his story, especially his struggle with sexuality and self-worth, isn't separate from the Vecna storyline. The episodes gradually tie them together. Will has had power inside him this whole time, but his fear and confusion about who he is and what he can do kept it locked away. Vecna, of course, still thinks of Will as that pathetic, scared child from 1983. When he bursts into the rescue mission at the base, he doesn't just unleash Demogorgons. He stops to talk to Will, spending time just mocking him. In his monologue, he finally spells out how he sees the boy levitating before him. He calls Will the first one, the original blueprint. The proof that some minds do not belong in the real world, they belong in his. In Vecna's mind, Will is the perfect template for the children he's now collecting. All of them weak in some innocent way, all of them easier to bend into perfect vessels. He wants to use Will as a psychic spy one last time, a tool that can help him reshape the world into a permanent upside down. What Vecna doesn't understand, though, is that his blueprint changed over time. Will has spent years carrying trauma, but also years surrounded by love that Vecna cannot erase or understand. Friendship, family, late-night talks in crowded houses, memories with Jonathan, quiet moments with Mike, and the rest of the party. All things Henry Creel is a stranger to. When Vecna walks away convinced that Will is broken and powerless, all of that finally pushes in the opposite direction. Robin's pep talk about accepting himself for who he truly is comes back to the front of his mind. The weight of years of being silent finally hits him. Instead of collapsing and breaking, Will does something he has never done before, something we all never thought possible. He pushes back and reveals powers capable of destroying the demons that haunted him for years. The show sets this up as a huge turning point in episode 4. The Demogorgons are closing in, the mission is falling apart, and for a moment it looks like Vecna has set up the perfect trap. Then Will's nose starts to bleed. His eyes go completely white. The same visual language the show has used for Vecna is now on Will's face, but the power is flowing in the opposite direction. He lifts his hand, palm facing upward, and the pose makes it look like he's pulling energy out of Vecna's DNA rather than pushing his own abilities out. At that moment, he channels the hive mind's force away from the monsters and back toward himself, then blasts it outward. The Demogorgons that were about to tear through his friends are shredded by a wave of telekinetic power that's clearly on or maybe even above Eleven's level. Will's powers mirror Eleven's because they share the same root. Eleven's own abilities were linked back to Vecna right from the start by a blood transfusion her mother received. Will's body was rewritten when Vecna infected him in Season 1, filling him with the Mind Flayer's essence and tying his nervous system into the hive. In his attempts to turn Will into a puppet, Vecna accidentally planted a copy of his own power set inside him. Now, the quiet boy he used to torment can do everything he does, from reading the hive mind to moving things with pure thought and even ending lives. The true power that Will holds is only just coming to the surface. Dungeons & Dragons holds the story beats again here. In the game's language, Will has always been the party's sorcerer. That class channels magic innately rather than studying and evolving it step by step, and that's exactly how his powers behave in the new season. He didn't grow up in a lab, he didn't spend years in a sensory tank or in training. The power is simply woven into him because of what Vecna did back in the day, and it finally wakes up once Will accepts himself instead of hiding. The episode where his powers are revealed, being called Sorcerer, underlines this. Mike even jokes about Will becoming the one who can control the army of monsters, which is much closer to the truth than he realizes. While Eleven's still the blunt force of magic on the board, Will's abilities lean more toward control and seeking information. Through a Demogorgon's eyes, he can track military convoys and watch as portals rip open across town. When the soldiers torch the creatures, Will feels every second of it, which is terrifying but also proof that he is tied into the network Vecna uses to coordinate his attacks, giving him valuable info. Even before his big telekinetic moment, the intel gathering alone makes him crucial and powerful. He can warn the Chiefs, party, guide them toward the weak points around Hawkins, and help them map where Vecna is hiding. Once his powers fully come through, the balance of the whole war shifts. The cast and creators even talk about it this way. On a story level, Will's final stand in Volume 1 flips the board. For the first time, Vecna is not the only heavyweight in the field. Finn Wolfhard jokes that the group now basically has 2 11s. The actors behind Will point out how satisfying it is to see this kid, who has spent the entire show pushed to the side, finally stand up to the monster who has haunted him for years and win. His power isn't just about big explosions. It's about reclaiming control over his own body and mind, and using the same darkness that hurt him as a weapon against its source. All of this means Will is not just another member of the Hawkins kids. He sits at the crossroads of almost every major force in the story. He is linked to Vecna through the Mark and the Hive Mind. His abilities echo 11 so closely that the show treats them as the same power source manifesting in different ways. He is also tied to the wider mythology through the stage play The First Shadow, which shows how Henry Creel first met the Mind Flayer in Dimension X, and invites you to see Will and Henry as mirror images. Both were taken as kids, both came back changed, but one moved toward cruelty while the other stayed kind at his core. One used trauma as an excuse to hurt others, while the other turns trauma into empathy and, finally, after many years, strength. That mirror idea leads into some of the darker theories that fans have been playing with. Some people inside the story suspect Vecna wants to use Will's body since his own is so damaged. Others imagine an ending where Will has to replace Vecna in the Upside Down, staying behind like a Lucifer figure who keeps the monsters in check so the real world can be safe. Almost like the father wanted Anakin to do in Star Wars, stay in another realm to control the evil in the real world. One far more likely theory is about the D&D character Kaz, a lieutenant who betrays Vecna using the power his master gave him. Will's connection to the hive mind and the way he pulls power out of Vecna in that final scene fits that pattern almost too well to not OCME true. Whether or not the show goes all the way with those ideas, Season 5, Volume 1 clearly positions Will as the one person who truly understands both sides of the war and has the ability to turn its tides for good. The emotional side of this makes his arc land even harder. When Will's eyes go white and his hand comes up, it's not just a cool visual designed to make us go wild. It's the moment a boy who has been repeatedly told he is weak, strange, or wrong uses the very thing that made him a target as his greatest strength. His fear, his closeness to his family, and even his sexuality, which he has been scared to voice, all feed into the shift. He is done with being a scared vessel that other people fill with their expectations. He becomes the one who chooses his own fate. The power that Vecna tried to claim as proof that Will does not belong in the real world becomes the exact thing that lets him defend it. So this is the true power and potential behind Will's newly unlocked abilities. They could very well be the one thing that's key to stopping Vecna for good, but that's only if he learns how to use them properly, so there's still room for things to go wrong. What did you think of this first volume of Season 5? Did it live up to the hype? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to see more Stranger Things content and theories, click the video on screen now.